Alright, back to the topic about CPU lapping, custom heat spreaders and direct die cooling solutions all together. So recently I bought some new custom heat spreaders from one of my favorite guys in the whole community. So from BartX, who runs his own BartXStore.com website store, which also has its own page on Facebook as well, called BartXStore. He creates single stage cooling units, custom heat spreaders for different Intel CPUs, memory heat sinks, liquid nitrogen containers and so on. So I bought the fully nickel plated custom heat spreader for the 28 Core Xeon, so the W-3175X, and also the most recent Kaby Lake-X IHS as well. So about the whole custom heat spreaders from BartX, I was one of the first guys who helped him to test his new custom heat spreaders for different Intel CPUs. The first CPU heat spreaders for like the Intel mainstream CPUs, they were kind of bad. I didn't really like many of them because they had worse performance than many of the Intel stock ones, and even some of the other customizers from other manufacturers also had better performance. But it quite all changed when he launched his new and the last revision of the Skylake-X X299 custom heat spreader. That one was really awesome. I used it so many times over and over again with my 10 Core 1700X, which I used to take down many global top scores in the 10 core category. So I ran Geekbench 3 at 6 GHz, Citybench R15 and 11.5 at like 5.97 GHz, GPU Pi up to like 6070 MHz, and X2654K at like 585 or 586 GHz, using this custom IHS made by him. I actually have that IHS still over here on top of the 7920X, which I used for memory testing. So this IHS is really awesome. If you have like original Skylake-X 7900 series CPU, you could think about getting this custom IHS or get a direct die frame by Debauer. So this one is really good. I think it's very even on both sides of the IHS. Always after unmounting the T-Rex container, the thermal paste spread was really awesome on top of the IHS. So when looking at this picture, you can really see from the get-go that there's like very little thermal paste remaining on top of the CPU's IHS. So that way you can easily determine if your contact was good. So looking at the thermal paste spread is one of the best ways to determine if the contact has been awesome. So that's one of the best results I have ever seen on any CPU after removing the cooling solution. I also had quite good result recently with my self-lapped 10980XE, although the CPU was bad. So when looking at the thermal paste spread on that Kaby Lake-X CPU, it has also been very good, like very even thermal paste spread throughout the CPU's IHS, so not different at the corners compared to the center. But lapping a CPU is a very tedious process always, and it takes a lot of time. It takes really a lot of time, and well, sandpapers aren't free. Well, they are cheap, but they aren't free, and you could make the IHS worse by lapping it manually, and in the worst case scenario you could even ruin the whole CPU. If you lap the CPU too much with too rough grit sandpapers, you could make the IHS too low so that the cooling solution will not make proper contact anymore. So then the whole CPU is kind of ruined. So if a really good custom IHS is not that expensive, like 20 to 30 euros, is there really much sense to lap it yourself? If the CPU can be delidded, I mean. Because you can make a custom IHS better on both sides, and it only costs that much. So is it really worth the money saved to spend so many hours on lapping, and the sandpaper still costs if you can get a really good IHS for quite small sum. So that's just my personal opinion. So that's how the Skylake-X IHS looks. So I thought about doing one reattempt on the original 7740X engineering CPU that I got like 2 to 3 years ago on the X299OC formula. Now with all the operating system and software improvements, I could maybe gain or get some good top scores, or well, not top scores but really like high scores with the 7740X if it goes well. With the 7740X, in my last attempts with the CPU, I was always using the direct die modified SF3D inflection point CPU pot, which was also modded by BartX. You can see the CPU right over here. So it has the milled some kind of IHS to lock the CPU in place, and then the center is gone and the CPU pot itself makes direct contact with the die itself. But the funny thing was that the end result with this was always worse than what I had with the T-Rex container with standard IHS. So it's funny because with this I only have one layer of thermal paste, which was always good when looking at the thermal paste spread on top of the CPU die. With T-Rex I have 2 layers of thermal paste, so 2 layers of KPX, one between die and the IHS, and then die and the IHS and the water block or the liquid nitrogen pot. But the end result was always better with the T-Rex. But I think the end reason lies in the thermal pot, or I mean in the LN2 pot design, because T-Rex is a lot stronger liquid nitrogen container than the modified SF3D inflection point. So I thought about doing one more attempt with the CPU. So I wanted to get the best possible IHS for that CPU, because it's not very expensive. The newest fully copper IHS from BartX for Kaby Lake-X, it only costs like 25 euros if I remember correctly, and it's surely better than a manually lapped stock Intel one. So here's the default IHS for that CPU, which has also been lapped long ago. So you can easily see now that the quality isn't so good anymore. There are some clear marks from use on top of the CPU's IHS, and the bottom side, well, it only has some liquid metal residues left at the center. So I think a really good custom one should be better. So that's why I wanted to get a completely new IHS for the Kaby Lake-X as well, and see what it does very soon. So that's what we have inside the box and the reason why I wanted to get them. But really, if you ask me, you should never lap a CPU's IHS which you are using only for like daily use. So when we talk about air or water cooling, lapping your CPU's IHS will always void your warranty. Because when you lap a CPU IHS, all the nickel coating will be gone, and then also all the markings on top of the CPU's IHS will also be gone. So we cannot read anything anymore, which was originally printed over there. So anyone can say from the get-go that this product has been manually modified, so the warranty is gone. When you just delid a CPU, you just remove the IHS from top of the CPU. But if you like, well, some guys, what they did on eBay was that they swapped a locked i5 CPU with an i7 IHS, and they sold the cheap locked i5 CPU as i7 CPU on eBay. Of course, that's illegal, that's scamming, but it's very hard to determine, like by just looking at the product, that the CPU was once delidded. So if some guy returned a dead original delidded CPU, it's very hard from Intel's perspective to prove that the CPU has someday been delidded. Only way to prove that would be to delete the CPU again. So by looking at what's actually lying there underneath the IHS. So if they are using the same thermal paste like Intel, so if they deleted the CPU again and they saw that there's blue thermal paste between the die and the IHS, they could say we don't use this kind of thermal paste in our products. So they could then prove it and void the warranty by saying that it's not valid anymore. But of course that takes time, and not all employees know about this thing. But yeah, so lapping a CPU is a lot more certain way to void your warranty than just CPU delidding. Of course, I don't recommend anyone to try to RMA return a delidded CPU, because it's again technically scamming. You are doing something that is illegal if you want to trick the manufacturer, saying that it was their fault that the CPU is no longer working, because you know what you did when you originally delidded your CPU. But that is just my knowledge about this whole thing. But lapping is of course quite cheap. Sandpapers aren't expensive, but it takes a lot of time to lap a CPU's IHS. It's a very tedious process if you want to do it well the first time. You can easily make the IHS even worse if you don't know what you are doing, and you could, in the worst case scenario, you could ruin the CPU completely. Like if you lap too much with too harsh grit sandpapers, you could make the CPU IHS too low, so that it sits lower than the socket locking mechanism. Then the cooling solution would not make contact with the CPU anymore. So then the CPU would be in kind of ruined state. So my idea, or my message to you is that whenever possible, if you are just using air or water cooling in a daily situation, if you can use direct tie cooling, you should always use that. Because liquid metal has the best, liquid metal is the best thermal interface material to translate heat. It's better than soldered CPU, so soldered TIM between the die and the IHS, and it's better than any conventional thermal paste like KPX, Cryonaut, Chillit CC Extreme. The thing about liquid metal is that it only works well at like positive temperatures, at room temperatures. We cannot use liquid metal when we go sub-zero, like liquid nitrogen, dry ice, single stage cooling, and so on. Then we always have to use conventional thermal paste, and the best one is soldered TIM, so soldered CPU. We need soldered, we need the so-called S-TIM when we go on LN2. That's the most ideal TIM for guys like us. So when talking about LN2 use, we don't delete the CPUs. For air or water use, you can delete them and use direct die if you can, and it's recommended. When I actually made quite a comprehensive test not long ago with the delidded 9900K. I compared the stock Intel, then just delidded stock Intel, and then I compared custom IHS with liquid metal and just direct die with liquid metal, and the direct die solution was by far the best. The custom IHS wasn't that much better compared to the Intel IHS. So that's probably the end result you would get with a lapped IHS as well. So you can get the same end result of a lapped IHS immediately by just spending like 20 euros on a custom IHS, or even better result. Recently, Debauer made a new video where he delidded his 10900K, but he only gained like 7 degrees Celsius by using liquid metal between the die and the IHS compared to the standard solder TIM between the two. If he had used direct die cooling solution from the startup, his gain would probably have been like 15 degrees Celsius. And 15 degrees is a huge gain. It could mean 100 extra megahertz or more on the CPU, depending on how well the CPU scales from temperatures. So don't lap your CPU if you just use air or water. Use direct die cooling solution if you can. So if you are using like 1900K, 10900K, 8700K, 7700K, you should delete the CPU and just use direct die cooling solution if you can. If you can't use a direct die cooling solution, then you should think about getting a good custom IHS. Do not lap the standard Intel IHS, because that will definitely void your warranty, and you could make the whole thing even worse or unusable in the worst case. So a good custom IHS like the Sky Lake-X IHS from BartX and the Kaby Lake-X IHS, they only cost like 25 euros from BartX, if I remember correctly. 25 euros. A good pack of different grit sandpapers can cost you like 5 euros maybe. So do you want to spend all the time lapping to save just 20 euros? That's my point I want to explain here. So the money you try to save is so small that is it worth it really? With CPUs that cannot be delidded efficiently, then the only way to improve the cooling performance is to lap the CPU's IHS. Like talking about Sky Lake-X refresh CPUs, Cascade Lake-X CPUs, they cannot be delidded safely and efficiently. So we cannot use direct die cooling solution, nor we can't use a good custom IHS. So the only way is to use the standard Intel IHS, and the only way to make it better is to lap it. So that's why we lap these Cascade Lake-X and Sky Lake-X refresh CPUs. With normal Sky Lake-X, you can delete it, and you should delete it, and you can get the direct die frame from debauer, and you can get really good custom heat spreaders for those CPUs from BartX and similar. With AMD CPUs, it's quite different story because they aren't really delidded, because it's not really realistic. There's like no gain, there are no custom heat spreaders for them, therefore, and lapping an AMD CPU is a lot harder than Intel CPU because all the pins are on the CPUs, on AMD CPUs, and it's very easy to bend them when you do the lapping process. So just saying, but I'm sure you got my idea anyways now. So let's open up this box and look at the custom heat spreaders which I now got, and just make a quick conclusion about the overview. So here we have, this should be the Kaby Lake-X custom heat spreader for 7740X and so on, and here we have the huge 28 Core Xeon W-3175X nickel plated heat spreader. The reason why I wanted to get this 28 Core Xeon heat spreader was because the standard IHS I got with the 28 Core Xeon was kind of partially lapped. The whole finish on it was quite bad. I don't have that CPU right here at the moment. It's set up in my other rig at the moment. But if you watched my SR3 Dark overview video and I have some pictures left, you can easily see that the whole finish on that IHS is not very good. It's like partially lapped. So I thought about trying this nice nickel plated IHS from BartX. This was quite expensive though. This was like 55 euros. So that is quite a lot for an IHS, I have to agree. But I just want to get it because the CPU is already so expensive and it's already ruined by delidding and lapping. So can't really lose anything. Can't really lose anymore, I should say. So the underside, well, I'm not sure, it has some marks. I'm not sure if that is just some dried out liquid, I don't know. But the top side looks quite good, if you ask me. No scratches or anything. I think it looks really, really good. Quite expensive, yeah, but should be good. If you want me to make a comparison video, I can make it. Leave it down in the comments below. But it's quite long process to set up that rig for good temperature comparisons. But I can do it if you want to. But the partially lapped IHS was already very good. I mean, considering the suspicions about it, because I already got two 28 core records with that CPU using that IHS, so I got the top score in Geekbench 3 and GPU Pi using that IHS. But I wouldn't expect that much gain from custom IHS on LM2. No way it should gain like 100 extra megahertz, but maybe some. But sadly that platform cannot overclock the base clock, so it's hard to gain that much from an IHS because cannot really see it, because have to move in 100 megahertz steps. And here we have the Kaby Lake-X IHS. The bottom side looks really good. I think that looks really awesome. The bottom side finish is absolutely awesome if you ask me. Top side looks really good as well. So look how shiny it is. So when compared to this manually lapped Intel one, which one would you take? I'm sure you would take the custom one from BartX. And remember, the custom one is only 25 euros if I remember correctly. So not really point to save the money of this thing over here to manually lap and ruin your CPU completely by lapping. That's just my personal opinion. I know that custom heat spreaders differ a lot in quality, but the custom IHS or the custom heat spreaders from BartX are really good. So definitely get this one if you have a 7740X. And think about the 28 core one if you have the 28 core Xeon. But that's about it. Very long video about lapping, custom heat spreaders and direct air cooling solutions, but this was just me rambling about these things. Maybe not something many would like, but I'm sure you got the idea if you watched it from the start all the way to the end. So if you like to see these new custom heat spreaders from BartX, then definitely like the video and leave a comment down below. Leave a comment if you want me to test and compare either of these custom heat spreaders, like how they differ, like accurately, what are the temperature gains and so on. Then please drop a comment about that below, because it takes a lot of time to set up those rigs for temperature tests like that. But I will do it if you want to, or if you want me to do it. But other than that, thanks for watching this very long video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next one.